right, we are live. Hello, welcome to Hacking 101. This is the second lesson, and I am your instructor. You can call me Squirrel or Brad, either way. Today, I'm going to be teaching you some basic Linux and Windows commands in the command line. You know that if you've never touched a command line, that's the green letters on the black background that everybody associates with hackers and stuff. Well, anyway, it's very useful for people that aren't hackers too. So yeah, first, before we start, disclaimer, like before, it's for educational purposes only. Use this knowledge for good, not evil. I am not responsible for anything you do with this information, so don't blame me, and don't be stupid with it. So now that we've got that out of the way, we can move on. By the way, if you guys have any questions during this, there's a chat over to the side. Go ahead and just, if you have a question somewhere in the middle, chat over there. I'm watching, and I will try to answer it as soon as I see it. Anyway, we're going to start out with the difference between Linux and the Windows command line. Windows command line is cmd.exe, which back in the MS-DOS days was command.com, but they're a little bit different. But all modern versions of Windows that are based on Windows NT, they use cmd.exe. And it's useful, reliable, but it's pretty basic. It does what you need it to do, and that's about it. It's kind of like this rifle here, this AR-15. It's pretty much bone stock. Red team or blue team? Oh. Let's say red team. Linux homework 2, cool. Oh, are you in school for Linux? Is that what you're doing, Jonathan? Yeah? Okay. Anyway, Windows command line is pretty basic. Gets the job done. Gets it done pretty well. But there's not much to it. Linux, on the other hand, is kind of like this AR-15 with every freaking gadget known to man, even a spork at the end, you know, just in case you need to eat your lunch while you're defending or something, or attacking. I don't know. Anyway, Linux usually has Bash, which is the born-again shell. It's very useful, very powerful, and one of the main differences between Linux and Windows command lines is in pretty much everything is done in Linux. Everything in Linux is done in the command line. I mean, not everything. But you're going to have more control over the operating system in the command line. Whereas Windows, honestly, the GUI, you can do everything in the GUI that you can in the command line, and you can usually do more in a graphical user interface than you can in a command line in Windows. And there's always software that you can install to add more commands. You know, you can call upon other programs from the command line. But in Linux, you're going to be calling most of your programs from the command line. Your degree is cyber operations. Is that some sort of security degree? You should let me know that. All right. Why you need to know this. Again, Linux is mostly in the command line. It's mostly a command line interface. You can get graphical user interfaces. And there are great Linux distributions that have great graphical user interfaces that are really friendly and easy to use, like Ubuntu or Linux Mint. But all the power is in the command line. Also, once you pwn a system when you're hacking, you will not get a graphical user interface, like never. Now there are situations where you'll get a shell, you'll run a couple commands to create yourself a user, and then you can log in with a graphical user interface, but like 99.9% of the time when you pwn a system over a network, you're not going to have a graphical user interface. So the command line is sometimes more powerful, especially in Linux. It's not always the case in Windows, but it is sometimes. And let's be honest, it impresses the opposite sex. I mean, you're sitting there, you open a command prompt, and you're typing commands, and you're getting the computer to do things. The opposite sex, they just, girls like guys with skills, like nunchuck skills and computer hacking skills. And it goes the other way around too. All right. And then basic things to become a command line ninja is practice. You got to practice this stuff. You got to just keep doing it over and over until it becomes second nature. Second, you got to mess around. If you don't know what a command is, research it. Or if you don't know how to do something, you don't know the command to do something, research it. Or just type stuff into the command line until it works. Read the help documentation. Linux has a lot of really good documentation. Windows has really good documentation. If you get stuck, ask for help. You can always ask me. You can tweet at me at the Hacker or at Hacker Bootcamp or at my personal one. Or there's plenty of other people that you can talk to. You might know somebody in real life, like an instructor or something that knows all this stuff. Just ask them. I'm sure they would be glad to help you out. And again, Google is your friend, or DuckDuckGo or Yahoo or Bing. I don't know why you would use Bing, but if that's your search engine, that's fine. I don't discriminate. But research. If you don't know how to do something, research it. So we're going to go ahead and start with Windows. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my Windows 7 virtual machine that we created in the last lesson. And if you guys don't have this, if you guys don't have this done already, I would suggest watching the last lesson. It's on the YouTube channel, and setting up this hack lab. It's really handy for practicing everything. Both defense and offense, and focuses on programming quite a bit. Oh, that's awesome. What kind of programming will you be doing? I find that Python is very useful. Python and Perl are very useful for security related things, but all programming languages are good in this field. And yeah, which one are you going to be learning, if you know? Or is it just basic programming? Anyway, we're going to open up Windows 7. Here we are. We're in Windows. Alright. Now to open up a command prompt in Windows, and this is the same with pretty much any modern version of Windows, is you can just go to Start, and this already has it right here in the Start menu. You can click Command Prompt, or you can search here, and Windows 10 has the search bar down here. Or if you can't get it, you can hit Windows key S and you get the search bar. Or you can get the run box open, which you can just hit Windows key R, and that'll open that up, and you can just type CMD. You get yourself a command prompt. All right. So the first couple commands that I will show you, we're just going to kind of learn how to navigate in the command line. And the first command that you're going to be using a whole lot is just the dir command, like this. Oops, not like that, not dir, like that. which is short for directory. And this lists everything that is in your current directory. If you hit this, check it out. We got all the files. Oh, this is an important thing. This is the same with Linux and Windows. You see this singular dot and then this double dot? These are kind of they're kind of placeholders. So the singular dot is for the directory you are currently in. This double dot is for the previous directory. So this dot represents this IE user folder, and this double dot represents this users folder. So as you can see, oh, by the way, our command prompt, you see it shows us in Windows, it shows us by default where we are in the file system. So we're in drive C in the folder IE users under users. So anyway, the dir command lists all of the files that are in this current folder that we're in. Something that's really useful, if you're in here and there is a ton of files, like you type dir and it just goes whoosh. Here, let me show you. We're going to go so if we type dir in the Windows directory, I mean, it goes way past the edge of the deal here. So to kind of consolidate it and make it a little easier to read so it doesn't go past the edge of our window, you just type dir. If you just type dir space and then /W, it kind of lines everything next to each other. See, so now it's side by side instead of just all one row. Doesn't give us quite as much information as before, but it's a lot easier to see everything that's here. Quite a bit of Python. Python's easy and it's great. That is, yes. A lot of, let's see, currently doing C and C++ for school. And in the future, I'll do assembly. And I think Perl. Awesome. I learned C. I never really got into C++, and assembly is still on the list of things that I want to learn because assembly is really powerful and really awesome. C is pretty great too. And Phoenix, you also love Python for data science. Cool. Python is the way to go. Alright, so that's the dir command in a nutshell. It's really easy if we're trying to find something, if we're trying to find a specific file, or just to see, you know, hey, what's in this folder, then D is the way to do it. I'm going to go back to that. Well, you know what? Now is a good time to show you the CD command. CD stands for change directory. It just, you know, helps you navigate. So when you want to change directory, you type CD and then wherever you want to go. And you can use absolute paths and you can use relative paths. So an absolute path would be like typing C : users IE user. So that's an absolute path. It starts with the drive. It starts from the root of the drive and you type out the entire path. Now, alternatively, we could use a relative path, which, let's see, if we type dir, we can see that we have a, let's go into the desktop folder. So you can just type cd space desktop. And now we're in the desktop folder. So that's a relative path. That's relative to your current position in the file system. If we do a dir here, we can see we have a license shortcut, just like right here, because we're on the desktop. Also, we can use the dots to like go back a folder. So if we want to go back to IE user, because see, we're currently in desktop, you can just type cd ... That'll take you back. And that's a lot easier than typing, you know, cd c:users, IE user. So, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and go back into the desktop. Oh, and that's also something I should mention. If you've done much with Linux, you probably know about autofill in the command line. Windows also has autofill in the command line. It's not quite as good, but it's still there. So if you type, like, if you're typing a command and you're like, I just want to go to the desktop, if you type like DE, so that's the first part of desktop, and you hit the tab key, it will autofill the rest as long as there's only one option. In Linux, you can double hit it and it'll tell you all. I don't know if Windows does that. Oh yeah, see, you kind of cycle through them on Windows. Alright, the next command that I'll show you is to clear the screen. If you just type CLS, I've already typed it a few times, it will clear your entire screen. It's helpful if clutter bothers you. It's also helpful to just kind of, when you're trying to move from task to keep your screen clean. It's very helpful for me, showing you guys so that it's easy to follow along. Personally, when I'm using the command line, I don't use, like, just by myself, I don't use it that often. But sometimes it's nice, sometimes it's useful. It can be really useful when writing batch files, which we're not going to go into in this. Well, maybe we'll do a little one. But that's just pretty much a command line script. So next one, let's create a text file. So if you use the echo command, and let's type in quotes, type, you know, hello world, right? It will echo hello world with quotes in the command line. I mean, you can do that to anything. You are weird, you know, or, you know, your mom. It'll put that in the command line. But we can put stuff into a text file using the echo command. So if you just type echo with a couple pointers, or no, hold on, one pointer. Okay, so one pointer is to create like a new file, kind of, and 2 pointers is to append something, and I'll show you that in a second. So we're going to echo we're going to echo hacking 101 is great into a file called h101.txt. So as you can see, it created this, because we're in the desktop file, it created this h101 text file. If you open this up, you can see it printed that quotations hacking 101 is great. Now, if we decided we want to change it, we type echo hacking 101 is balls, and we did the single arrow, I don't know what that's actually called, greater than, into the h101.txt. Oh, what? Oh, I missed a quote. Boom. Now when we open this file, it says hacking 101 is balls. Now if we wanted to, instead of erasing what's in the file, we wanted to add something on top of what was already in there, then you use the 2 greater than symbols. Like hacking 101 is not that bad. You use 2 of these, h101.txt, We open this. Now it has both those lines. No! Curse you, Windows Update! Alright. Again. Oh, don't want that. So, now we have this file here. And if we type dir, you can see h101.txt. Okay, so the cat command, that's in Windows, right? Oh, sorry. Cat is not in Windows. That's a Linux command. Why do I have that written under Windows commands? Never mind. Cat's not a command. Okay, next we're going to make a folder. We're going to call it hacker. So now we have a folder called hacker. The command is mkdir, is make a directory, and then you give it the name of the directory. So now we can go into hacker, and as we can see, there's nothing in there. That's sad. I'm going to go back, and we can copy our h101 file into the hacker directory. And the command for that is simply copy. And what you want to do is you pick the file that you want to copy, h101.txt, and you want to put it in the location that you want. In our case, it's hacker, like this. And so that will copy our hacker 101 or our h101 text file into the hacker directory. See? It's the same thing. So now let's delete our h101 that's on the desktop, because we copied it to our hacker directory, which, you know, we'll just call that our backup directory, so we no longer need the original for some reason. You just type del h101.txt, and that'll remove it. So if we go into, I'm going to show you, there's another command that's similar to copy. It's move. So let's go ahead and go inside hacker. Oops, doing Linux commands again. And we'll move the h101.txt out of this folder. So we're not going to just copy it. We're not going to make a copy of it. We're going to move this file out of this folder. You just type move. And again, you type, first is the file that you want to move, and next is the location. And we're just going to move it back one and name it the same thing. Alright, and now we can see that inside hacker there's nothing here, and we've moved the h101 out of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and to remove a directory, type in rmdir, remove directory. We'll remove hacker. Cannot find the specified file. rmdir is a command in Windows, right? So if you need help with the syntax of command or anything, a quick way is to type the command and then /?. And you can see that here, rmdir removes all directories and files in the specified directory in addition to the directory itself. Oh, I'm in hacker. That's why. So I did type that correctly. Just like that. There you go. Goodbye, hacker. Just rmdir and hacker. But let me show you something. Okay, now our hacker directory has a file in it. By the way, if you didn't notice, for directories in Windows, you need to use the backslash between directories. In Linux, it's / and that sort of thing, but in Windows, it's backslash. So if we type rmdir hacker now, it says the directory is not empty. And there's two ways we can go about this. You can type rmdir /s /s hacker, or you can just type deltree hacker. Oh, deltree is a, oh man, deltree is an old command, so you want to use that's for command.com. I'm mixing all this up. Okay, so you want to type rmdir /s hacker. Are you sure? Of course I am. Alternatively, if you don't want it to ask, just create this again. If you don't want it to ask you, if you want to delete it for sure, /s/q for quiet mode. It should just delete it. There you go. Woo! So I mean, that's pretty much the basics in Windows of looking through things. Oh, there's one more. So if you use the command more on a text file or any other file, it will print it out on the screen for you. So let's see, what else do I have on this list? That's pretty much it for looking through, like navigating the folders and deleting and creating things and copying things and moving things. And oops. And those are very useful. You're going to be using it a lot, because you're going to need to be creating files and moving files or copying files from one location to another and that sort of thing all the time. Also, again, if you get stuck on a command, your syntax is just wrong, or you forgot how to use it, then just type the command +/ +?, and it will give you a basic help file on that command. Like every command, even cd, which is, you know, very basic. So you can also just type help, and it will list all the commands that you can use, and you know what they're used for. Just a basic description. And there's a, you know, as you can see, there's a lot of commands in here that we did not go over. I mean, there's still a few more I need to show you, but this is just the basics. So let's see. Ping. Ping is a very helpful command. You can see if something is up. So we can ping Google, and you see we're getting replies. And what that does is it sends a packet to Google, this IP address, and it says, hey, are you alive? If Google sends one back that says, yes, I am, then it'll tell you you're there. It's also good for on your local network of pinging other things. So the next really useful network command is ipconfig. If you just type ipconfig and hit enter, it'll give you a summary of your network stuff. So especially, you know, stuff to pay attention to is your IPv4 address, That's going to be very useful. Subnet mask, default gateway. So like our default gateway, we could ping that if we wanted. Oops. 154.2. As you can see, we're getting a reply from that. But if we do that, oh yes, also another useful thing is if you've typed a command and you want to run that command again, or you want to modify it a little bit but you're running essentially the same command, you just hit the up arrow key and it will bring you to the last command you used, and you can cycle through them. You go up and down between. It's kind of a history. It's very useful. So if we ping 15, which isn't anything on this network, it will sit here and see we're not getting any sort of replies. See, we're getting destination host unreachable. It's because there's nothing there. So that's also useful. All right, but back to ipconfig. So if you just type it, you get the basics. Other useful things, especially for troubleshooting network issues, is if you type ipconfig release, as you can see, now we no longer have any of that information, and it says, you know, there's no IP address or anything like that. And what release does is it kind of resets all of that. This is kind of resetting your network card. And if you type ipconfig/renew, then it will it'll contact the DHCP server and give you a new address. But most of the time, see, 128 was available, so that's what it gave me. Most of the time it'll give you a similar one. But there have been instances where I've been out working at a company and they had a computer that, you know, they switched routers, and so their IP range was different, and they had like one computer that didn't switch over for some reason, and so it had no internet and it had no network connectivity. If you go there and you run that command and reset it, it'll pick up a new IP address almost every time, unless there's something else majorly wrong. That can also be very helpful in a hack, though. You can take out a network adapter that way. All right, other things. Oh, other things that kind of have to do with the directories and that sort of thing is stuff like chdir will tell you where you're at. It'll tell you, I'm in users IE user desktop. Now, by default, Windows gives you this where you're at already, but if for some reason you don't have that, you can type this command and it will tell you where you're at. Another one is who am I? And that will tell you who you are and on what machine. So we are on the IE8 Win7 machine, and we are IE user. That's who we're logged in as. Let's see. Okay. Another great one is the @ command. This one, you get to create a scheduled event. And this can be very useful, and I'll show you why. So I used to use this. I don't know if it's going to work with Windows 7. I used to use this on the Windows XP machines when I was in school, like in middle school and high school, and we would use this to get system privileges on a machine. So if you type, let's see, how does this go? And then as you can see here, it says and then the computer name, but we don't need that because it'll be on the local machine, and then the time, and the time is currently 7:04, so we'll set it for 7:06. Actually, it needs to be 24-hour clock. That's PM. So 1906. and then we give it a, let's see, /interactive, or no, not even, we just cmd.exe. Actually, yes, interactive. Like this. Okay, yeah, see. So, back in Windows XP, you used to be able to do that, and it would give you a system level command prompt. Windows 7, it looks like it's not going to do that. But, we should get something running at 706 anyway. It just says it won't run interactively. So, or let's schedule something else. Oh yeah, see, 1906, it didn't happen. /interactive paint. What? I can't. I still can't. Must be because I'm not an administrator. That is fine. Back in Windows XP, it worked. And that is still useful if you have administrator privileges. That's pretty much it for Windows. If you just type exit, it will exit your session. And I'm going to go ahead and shut down the Windows 7. Alright, now we are going to start with the Linux command stuff. Do you guys have any questions about Windows command line stuff? Maybe? If you do, type it in there. Alright, I'm going to open our Kali Linux virtual machine. Once this boots, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the Linux command line. Alrighty. Oops. Alright, and in our Kali virtual machine, we're going to go ahead and click the terminal over here so we can get a born-again shell. And this is, so we'll start kind of the same way. So to list all of the details in the command line, you just type ls instead of dir. This is like the equivalent of dir, like we learned earlier. ls. As you can see, it lists all of this stuff here. These are all folders. Now, not every Linux distro is going to have them nice and colorful like this, but Kali does. And you can always set it up to be that way. Also, if you look at the shell here, you know how Windows, just had where you were in the file system. Here we have our user at our machine name, which in my case is EliteBox. And then right here, behind the crunch, that is our current working folder. The little tilde means that we're in our home we're in our home folder, which in this case, since we're root, it would just be /root. If you were an unprivileged user, it would be /home and then your username. So ls displays, everything that's in the file. If you type ls-lart, it will give us a more detailed version of what we saw up here. We can see hidden files, which have a dot in front of them. That's how they do it in Linux. It's different in Windows. So these white ones are files, and these dots are hidden. And as you can see, these blue ones are still folders, but they have a dot in front of them. They're hidden folders. And you can see that we have a double dot and a single dot, just like in Windows, and it means the same thing. All right, and then to change directory, it's the same as Windows. CD, let's go to desktop again. So now we are in the desktop. If you type ls, there's nothing there because there's nothing in the desktop. All right, to clear the screen, instead of CLS, you just type clear. Ta-da! And then echo works the same way in Linux. We're going to go ahead and create a file. Yo dog, heard you liked Hacking 101. All right. Oh, we're going to do something funky here. We're just going to put it in a file called h101, no.txt. And then now if we type ls, we have a file, h101. Now in Windows, Windows uses the file extensions to determine what kind of file it is. And Linux does that a little bit too. But you don't need them in Linux. So this h101 is a text file because it's just plain ASCII text. If we go ahead and use cat, it will display what is in this file, kind of like more in Windows. Yo dog, heard you liked Hacking 101. Also notice that in Linux it doesn't include the quotes, whereas in Windows it does. And you need the quotes in both of them if you have any sort of spaces. So yeah, all right. We're going to use the file command to figure out what kind of file h101 is. Now, like I said, in Linux you have files that don't have extensions, and so you might not know. Kali's kind of nice, it has the color-coded stuff, but you might not know what kind of a file it is. So you use the file command. You just type file and then the name of the file. It will tell you what it is. So in this case, it's a text file. All right, and you know, same as in Windows, we can add a line. I also heard you liked cars. Double greater than h101. If we cat that file again, it shows both. Just appended it. Now, also, okay, let's see. PWD. It's basic command. Shows you where you are. So Linux, you can customize the crap out of this little part here in front of your prompt. You can customize that any way you want. You could have it just be, you could just have it say, I'm the best in the world, and then have a prompt. Or you can have it be super complicated and tell you what your IP address is and all that kind of stuff. So you might not always have this little guy here telling you what directory you're in. It's kind of handy. I always set up my Linux distros to have that, but might not always. Also, you can tell, this one just gives you the tilde saying your home directory and then desktop. This actually gives you an absolute path. So root desktop. Also, who am I works here in Linux too. We're root. Let's see. So, okay. To create a directory in Linux is the same as in Windows, is mkdir. Except in Linux, you can, well, let's just do it like this. Hacker. Boom. So we've created a directory called hacker. If we type ls, we can see that it's there. Also, you can see that it's behind my command prompt. So we have h101 and hacker. Now it's kind of nice in Linux. They have a lot of what I call switches, or some people will call arguments, or whatever you want to call them. So like make sure we can add the V switch -V beforehand, and we'll create a folder called hacker2. And the V switch stands for verbose. So it tells us what it's doing. It says it created a directory hacker2. Now if it failed, it doesn't, it's weird. Not if a command fails, it won't always let you know unless you have that verbose switch in there. So I put it in a lot of my commands. And it's pretty universal. That -V is pretty universal between pretty much all Linux commands. Same with -R, stands for recursive. It's pretty common. It's not always that, but it is for a lot of commands. Alright, so now let's move H101 into hacker. So instead of typing out move, it's just MV. And we're going to type V for verbose 101. We're going to move it into the hacker folder. Now you don't always have to put, if you don't put a file name, it'll just put it in there as the current file name. But you do need the slash, otherwise it will rename H101 as hacker. So now if we go into hacker, we type ls, we get H101. Also notice that in Windows it was backslashes between the files and folders, and in Linux it's forward slashes. Alright, and we can, so to remove a directory, you just type rm -v so we can watch it, hacker2. But see, it says it can't remove it because it's a directory. So we have to tell it, okay, delete everything. R is for recursive, delete the folder and everything in it. V for verbose, and F to force it. Also, that's another nice thing about Linux is you can put all the switches together, whereas with Windows you have to separate them. Now in Linux, if you have to feed, so sometimes switches will, you have to feed certain switches certain arguments or certain values, and so then you have to have them separate. But in this case, you can put them all together. Remove the directory hacker2. Alright, and that will work even if there's stuff in the folder too, as long as you have that R switch on there. Alright, we go into hacker. We can copy this by typing cp. We're going to copy H101. We're going to tell it where to copy it to. We're going to put it one folder back, just like that. So if we go one folder back, you can see that we have an H101 here, and we have an H101 in hacker still. Oh yeah, that's the other thing about the ls command, is you can type ls and then tell it where you want to look into, and it'll look in any folder or anywhere that you want. Alright, so to remove a file, you use that rm command again, b, but you don't have to use force or anything like that. See, removed it. Alright, what else? Oh, find. Find is an excellent command in Linux. You can find a file anywhere. So let's see. So we want to find the H101 file, which is in hacker. If you just type find H101, it says there's no H101 here. It's because we're not in the hacker directory. So we need to tell it where to look. If you don't give it any sort of argument, or any sort of location to look, it'll just search in your current directory. So if we go find in hacker, H101. There it is, hacker H101. If we go find in the whole drive H101, it will find everything with H101 in it. Oh, and if you want to stop a command, you just press Control-C. Which brings me to ping. We can still ping the same. The difference is, after a while, Windows will just stop pinging, whereas in Linux, it'll keep going until you cancel it, or unless you specify how long you want it to ping. But we're not going to go into that right now. All right. Yes, if config. So in Windows, it was ipconfig. In Linux, it's ifconfig. To bring up your network stuff. As you can see, this is our IP address and all of our other information. So, and this is our network adapter, ETH0. This is the only one that we have on this one, but sometimes you might have like a wireless adapter as well, or you know, if you have multiple NICs for some reason. This is the loop back. You don't really have to worry about that for now. You can type if config down, oops, if config down, and then the device you want to take down. Or is it the other way? Oh, it's the other way. Sorry. If config ETH0 down, it will take that down. So now if we type if config, you can see there's no ETH0. If you type if config -a, it will show us that ETH0 again, but it's down. So just typing if config shows you everything that's up. If you type if config -a, it will show you everything if it's down or up. So to bring that back up so that we get network again, type if config ETH0 up. Simple as that. And if we type if config, boom, it's back up and we have an IP address again. All right. Ooh, grep. So let's go ahead, enter into hacker. We're in the hacker folder now. We have our H101 file, which has this text in it. So let's say we wanted to find a line with the word also in it. So we want to find this line, not this one. We're going to use the grep command, and we're also going to use what's called a pipe. So cat H101 pipe, which is on the keyboard, it's if you hit shift and then backslash, gives you a pipe. You type grep -i, which will ignore uppercase and lowercase, and then the word also. And that gives us just the line with the word also in it. This is really handy if you're trying to look through a log file or some other file with a bunch of stuff in it. You can grep through it and you can find different things. And grep is very powerful, and there's lots of different switches you can use for that command to even narrow down your search even more, or to like change it up and that sort of thing. Very powerful. Let's see, we can also, there's also more. If you have a long file, you can type more. So, I mean, it's not going to look that great, but more. It didn't even work because it's not long enough. If you have a file that you need to look through that is longer than the window, longer than this window, if you put a pipe and then more, it will give you a way that you can use the arrow keys and kind of go through it. Also, unlike Windows, Windows used to have a command line text editor called edit, but it no longer does in the more modern versions of Windows, but Linux does. Every Linux will have Vim. So we're going to go ahead, you just type vi and then the file you want to open in the text editor, and boom, we have our file. And Vim is very difficult to use at first if you don't know how. It's not like what you're used to, I'm sure, but I'm hoping to have a whole kind of course, or I don't know, maybe just a few lessons on Vim. It's really, really handy. Oops. But yeah, I guess basic Vim is you use H and J, K, L to move around. You can also, I think, yeah, you can use the arrow keys. So let's say we wanted to change, just for super basic, we want to change dog to dude. You position your cursor, you press I, and now we're in insert mode. And you can delete that and type dude. And then to get out of insert mode, you have to press escape. And then to save the file, you have to hit colon, so you get a colon prompt, and then WQ, and that means write, like save the file, write everything to it, and then quit VI. And now it'll say, you know, yo dude. Another one that a lot of Linux distros have is Nano, and it's a lot easier to use, especially for beginners. So I mean, this is, you move around with the arrow keys, and you know, you can change it. It's kind of like a text editor that you would use in Windows or whatever, but instead of, you can't click and place your cursor anywhere. You have to use the arrow keys. Then to exit, you press Control X, modify, yes, yes. So Nano is very useful if you're a beginner to Linux, because it's really easy to use, but Vim is so much more powerful. So learning Vim is a good idea, but it's very difficult at first. Like, I wouldn't just jump in and call it your default text editor until you actually know what you're doing. But once, I mean, Vim, you're always learning new stuff. I've been using Vim for, man, like 8 or 10 years now, and there's still stuff that I keep learning, because it's just, I don't know, you use it all day, not all day, just every day, and then you're like, you hear somebody talk about something, you go, huh, or you look at a Vim cheat sheet and you go, oh man, I haven't been using that, and then you use it and you're like, wow, learned something new, and you start using it and it makes things useful. Anyway, Vim is awesome, but it's hard. Oh, okay, so in Linux, the documentation in Linux is awesome. So if you have troubles with a command, kind of like in Windows, you know, you would type like that, /?, most of the time, if you type -- help, it'll bring up a basic help page, and it'll say, hey, this is what this does, here's some, you know, switches to use, that sort of thing. But if you want a very in-depth kind of manual for the software, if you type man and then the command, oh, there's no manual for CD. Okay, here we'll do grep. So if you type grep -- oh, here's a good way we can use more. So see how this kind of goes too long? If we type grep -- help pipe more, now we're at the top, and we can go down with the space bar, take us down, or the arrow keys if it's long enough. And this gives us a basic help page for the grep command. But if you want a really in-depth manual, then you type man and then the command. And now you can see there is a lot more in this one. And usually these manual pages, they have, like, you know, who it's written by, what it's used for, a longer description, every single switch that you can use in the command, what each switch does, how to use it basically. See, it even talks about how to use it. Man pages are awesome. So you just type Q to exit out of that. But yeah, man pages. Man pages. I wish Windows had man pages. Wish everything had man pages. I wish life had man pages. Alright, we've talked about PWD and that and man and RM. Okay, so I forgot to talk about them in Windows, but in Linux, to restart your computer, you just type reboot. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to reboot the machine, but you just type reboot and hit enter. Also, to shut it down, you can type shut down. And I'm trying to remember. Yeah. How long? So you would just type shut down 0, I think. That'll shut it down. In Windows, it's more like shutdown /T0/S, which means don't, just shut down now. To restart, it's shutdown /T0R. And also, you can, like, if somebody set it to shut down in 10 minutes or whatever, 10 seconds, and you want to stop it, it would just be shutdown /A. I believe it's the same. Let's see. Is it? No, it's not the same. So you can type, say, shutdown -R is reboot. Shutdown -big H is halt, which halts the machine. Little h is equivalent to power off, overridden by halt. P for power off. Alright, I think that's pretty much it for Linux. Again, to exit your session, you just type exit. And that's that. I'm going to shut this one down. Alright, again, practice this stuff. It's super useful. You'll use it all the time if you're going to be doing any sort of network penetration testing. And it'll help you in your daily lives just with technology. Are there any questions? Is anybody even still watching? Maybe. I'll wait for a second. Again, if you have any more questions, you can tweet at me or the Hacker Bootcamp. Or, you can ask me next week. Next week we're going to be doing Nmap, which is when we're going to start getting into some fun stuff. We're actually going to start like the meat of hacking. We're going to do a whole lesson on just Nmap because it is so awesome, so powerful, and there's so many things you can do with it. And we'll start our first phases of our hack. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week. Same day, same time.